First time, Ratan Sharda, the parallel with Red Fort Blast has now been made, as ASG Raju says, that these intellectuals are the real brains, more dangerous than the ground level terrorists.
Well, Rhythm, urban Naxal terminology was not invented out of thin air. These are people, overground people who actually support the underground activities, underground movements of every kind of disruptor, whether it's Maoist or Naxals or these communal and violent Islamist jihadis. And there is a very strong backbone of support to these people, which has been shown time and again when they come out in the open supporting the terrorists, asking the courts to give them in the middle of the night to give lenient sentence to them. Not only that, see, this is very clear that this was, as I said earlier, clearly a regime change operation, and none of these incidents, whether the CAA, then the farmers' protest, and various other disruptions here and there, on and off, are all dots of the same landscape, which basically wants this nation to get into chaos, anarchy. So finally, it can be taken over by the anarchist, leftist, and communist with the support of Islamist jihadis. Sharjeel's speech, as I listen, is very clear. He talks of chicken neck, he talks of 370, he talks of see every possible button which can be pushed to scare, frighten the Muslim community into some kind of reaction. Fortunately for us, there are still saner elements, but this was nothing less than regime change continuously. So now we understand why Lal Killa happened. We also understand why government had to take a stance, which to us seemed very lenient, which actually was a very carefully understood thing that if we take any action, this will boomerang into a huge protest they wanted to avoid. And this is the reason why we saw what we saw during farmers stir. And you remember these people, the so-called dada dadis, nana nanis, went to farmers also to show support to them. So what was happening underground was shown openly when they came to each other support. They had no common element, no common agenda, but to disrupt democracy in this country. And we must be very careful. I'm saying again that people who defend these people, you remember last few days people are coming on to defend even the doctors. So an illiterate jihadi is much less dangerous than these educated jihadis. The Quran and computer similarly no more works. I think much more needs to be done. We must recognize that this comes from a certain ideology where you cannot live peacefully with other religions, where a Darul Harb must be converted to Darul Islam. Giving any excuse world over it's happening. When they claim Babri, they claim something else. They have victim card for every country, whether it's USA, UK, Europe, wherever you go, they will invent a victimhood if it is not there. And India, they can find plenty because India is a land of diversity, land of very wonderful diversities and differences, which we reconcile. But for them, there is no reconciliation. For them, it's either us, our ideology, or nobody else survives. So this is the ultimate result of continuous appeasement of these elements by so-called secular leftists, and they must be exposed when they come on TV defending them, they must be shown in the true colors. I think that is a lesson that we must understand. Don't show any sympathy, none at all, to people who support or show sympathy for terrorist elements or violent elements anywhere in this country.
And I also want to tell our viewers that more words for the first time being said by Additional Solicitor General ASG Raju, who's very, very cryptic, very rarely makes such statements in the courts. And today he's openly saying that these intellectuals are many times more dangerous. See between the
Yes.
lines. He's also telling us to read between the lines because the Red Fort Blast case has now been mentioned. This is the big breaking news right here on Republic TV. The focus by the Delhi police is now these intellectuals are now more dangerous. These terrorists, I would say, who are showing themselves to be intellectuals are more dangerous, is what he's trying to say. The real purpose of the protest was regime change, strangulated the economic welfare on a pan-India basis. The CAA was just a red herring. He's also saying it had resulted in the death of 53 people. An IB officer was also killed. More than 530 people were killed in the Delhi riots case. There is a people were injured in the Delhi riots case. I beg your pardon. There's a larger conspiracy which engulfs everything. Something on the scheme of what was happening in Bangladesh and Nepal. very clear now the international hand being spoken of. They say in other cases I have been enlarged on bail, but that's not the point. Before the conspiracy, also there were other cases, but there was a larger conspiracy. Ratan Sharda, this is what I also want to ask you on, because this is something that our editor-in-chief Arnab Goswami had also mentioned on the in the debate a few days ago when he was talking about this. ASG Raju now mentions this in the Supreme Court, and after this, I come across to Kapil Sankhla. Something on the scheme of what was happening in Dhaka and in Kathmandu was being done. It did not work. What is the indication now that is so crystal clear that that ASG Raju is trying to tell the top court of the country?
See, we must go back to the Soros gang and those people right from Arab Spring to change regime designs in Latin America, in Southeast Asian countries, and even Bangladesh, for example. And Bangladesh is also an example how a civilized society can change to a very violent and very extremist society with just a few years of radicalization and just a few push from the jihadi elements, because deep down there is already always a sympathy for their Islamist friends. And only these things to become overground when their situation rises. I think we have to take lesson from that also. And yes, definitely, regime change, as you connect the dots, is very clear. That effort in Bangladesh was succeeded because it has a huge majority and very, very large number of these jihadi elements who were nurtured for a long time by opposition parties, and nobody could control them at that time. And at the same time, in India, we have alert people, we have got peaceful people who don't really get easily ignited into firing or breaking or exploding, but still the danger lurks. As I said, it requires just a little catalyst for these elements to create problem. And this is an example how and missed, educated people with brainwashing of years of a certain book end up in these kind of situations where they very easily feel they're doing a service to Allah. As this one of the doctors said, that I am not doing suicide, I am doing a job for Islam. And this is the danger when these educated people who actually go so heavily brainwashed as compared to illiterate people who can be easily fooled. So an educated radical is much more dangerous, and they nearly succeeded. But for government's very wise decisions to restrain itself from taking action, at the same time collecting enough evidence to finally throw it in the face of the overground supporters of these violent anti-national elements. And these people should not be seen in public life, and they should be exposed totally, as a Republic is doing continuously, because the language they use, the kind of language they use for these doctors, I think that is shameful. They say there is a problem. They have a problem in every nation, all over the world. It is not just question of one country or one particular incident. If there are none, they will invent it. When Pakistan theory was brought up, was there any problem? Were Hindus actually exploiting Muslims? Were they killing Muslims? No, it was British Raj before the Mughal Raj. But you can create this scenario anywhere, and this is why it is very dangerous. And you must not try to isolate the ideology and say, no, no, everybody is not like that. Yes, everybody is not like that. But there are enough people, even if a small percentage, which can turn into large numbers, who can be radicalized. And that is why we need to be much more careful about these elements rather than giving them long rope.
I completely agree. I think there are a few things, Kapil Sankla, that have been stated by in this hearing by ASG Raju, whom I said is rather very clear, very not soft, I would say, but cautious when he speaks. And he has today drawn the parallel with the Red Fort blast. And I want to actually speak on that, where he says that these terrorists are intellectuals, they are the real brains. And then the words that have said that they are more dangerous, they have come for the purpose of regime change. Something on the scheme also happened in Bangladesh and Nepal. Like Ratan Sharda said, Kapil Sankla, it does seem what has been said in the 389 page affidavit of the Delhi police could be true. There seems to have been an international hand that is behind the Delhi riots of 2020.
I believe, Vivin, that Mr. Raju, and I've had the pleasure of hearing him in Supreme Court, is one of the finest criminal lawyers we've had or India has produced till date. He's very careful in choosing the words. He's very steady as far as what he's going to say in the court. And if he's not mincing any words today, which means there is much more to it, There is much more to it. There is a lot that can be spoken, but he's just being very cautious. As far as this regime change is concerned, this is extremely disturbing because the moment I heard this term, I remember that what had happened in Nepal, there was a youth-led protest called Zen Z, where certain leaders of the youth got together at different places, started talking about different things, suddenly got together, and what was then done was an absolute regime change in Nepal. Take that template where this fellow was talking about creating these standardized templates, etc. Now let us go closer home. Let us also go to Bangladesh. Exactly the same thing. There was something called the monsoon revolution, which happens where certain student bodies all got together and decided to overthrow the government there. And now let us see what has happened to Bangladesh. As my co-panelist said, that things have gone south there. And this is exactly what was being. So that template, that standard operating procedure was created. It was tested in Bangladesh. It was tested in Nepal. And they wanted to do the same thing here in India. And thank God we got saved. But it is not over. Because as Mr. Raju rightly stated, that an educated terrorist is a very dangerous terrorist indeed, because he not only manages to convince himself with his education and whatever far-fetched reality he's created in his mind, but also hundreds of other people and radicalize them and make them do gruesome acts in the name of their religion, in the name of their book, in the name of whatever they may believe in. For this student politician, for this youth leader to talk about Pakistan and other countries and how it is to be involved, etc., shows that there was definitely a foreign hand. There was definitely a template that was being run. There was some standard operating procedures that were created where various people were given certain jobs, certain duties to radicalize various people in different parts of India. And perhaps what would have happened is that one fine day there would have been an innocent march all across India, suddenly overtaking the government, suddenly taking over our democracy and creating their own radicalized nation that they so desperately want to do. The whole idea is to destroy our economic, our social economy, our independence, to finish us as a nation, to embarrass us as a nation, to bring us down. And it cannot be by any person who loves your country. It has to be a person who is just a machine, who is just an equipment, who is playing to somebody's hand. He is a puppet, and there are puppet masters sitting somewhere playing those puppets who are downplaying other innocent people. When you talk about regime change, you have to realize that it has already happened in your neighborhood and it was being created. Situations were being created to do it here. Those snippets in itself are so dangerous. Those snippets in themselves are so divisive. Those snippets in themselves have been created and crafted to radicalize, to make people get to violent means. They say, what happens with peaceful marches? What happens when you do sit down dharna? Nothing. Do something big. And what is this big? This big is what has already been done in Nepal. This big is what has already been done in Bangladesh. And this big was being done and perhaps is still being done. And they realize that it is when you radicalize an educated person, he has the propensity, and that is the kind of jihad, to convert 100, to convert 1,000, to convert 10,000 other innocent people who will then play to his music. And he himself is getting controlled by some puppet master somewhere abroad, somewhere else, somewhere who just want to destroy our country.
So I also want to tell our viewers, Kapil Sankla and Ratan Sharda, what was said in the court is their focus was to create such type of protest so that there is a regime change. Please have a look at the
Yes.
WhatsApp chats. He's taking the code through the WhatsApp chats, and we've been seeing them since 2020. The chats in DPSG group, the Delhi protest support group. He says the call for regime change will come in the end. He says the purpose of all this was ultimately regime change. ASG Raju, specifically, like Kapil, you were telling us, is very clear, trying to show the court very cautiously but clearly that the purpose of everything was a regime change. The bigger picture, and now we're going to be discussing that after this 8-minute video has been shown on Republic TV, and we've shown what the intent of this group was. They only wanted a regime change. And today, for the first time, like I said, he has also said intellectuals are endangering. He's drawn the parallel with the Red Fort blast. It's clear the kingpins of the Delhi riot case may have started out with wanting the regime change, but it's clear there was somewhere from Dhaka and Kathmandu, like also Kapil Sankhla was telling us, the Gen Z involvement, it was clear that there is some international help that these people were getting. Ratan Sharda.
Definitely, there is no doubt at all about this. क्या जन्नत का हलवा, जन्नत का प्रसाद, biryani, displayed for a year, the months together. No, how they survived, how they lived for more than a month on the streets. All that showed that this was not, just some spontaneous protest. And the way it got support from from various institutions around Delhi, whether it's JNU or others, and students coming out and playing very dirty game, fake story, fake news, and provoking people. The pre-designed, the pre-fabricated riot toolkit in Delhi. All these are seen. Only now as the dots are connected, especially with Sharjeel Imam speech, which has been across India, which has been no young man would dare to use this language, to use the theories unless been tutored. He's a tool of those international agencies, but he's a very important tool because he's educated, because he speaks well, because he can absorb the ideas given to him, and then he's been promoted. He's promoted all over India. Otherwise, why should a person move all over India to spread this gospel of violence, this gospel of Darul Islam, and this gospel of breaking the nation, breaking the chicken neck, and creating havoc everywhere? So he is definitely being managed by handlers who may be anywhere in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, somewhere in Paris, we don't know. But these are not normal times. This is very dangerous time we're living in. But for very high level of security that this government has put in, we would be in shambles. Remember before 2014 what was happening? And now, despite all the tight control with every day some sleeper cell, other being exposed, we had explosion in Lal Killa. There are Pakistanis are owning it up, saying that we showed India what we can do. So these are all tools of these very huge Islamist and Marxist, Maoist network, where they want to disturb any democracy which is not running to their own taste, their own policies, and what they want to do. As I said, it's an international game that these people are playing. Nothing less, nothing more. And of course, unless we rise to the occasion and see that no such people get public space to spread their venom, we are in a very dangerous bend. We cannot depend on government alone.
Yes, and I think I want to just tell our viewers what's been happening for the past 1 hour. Just around I think around 1 p.m. or a little before that, ASG Raju put forward this video that we had showed you viewers first right here on Republic TV, a very disturbing video that showed several clippets of the many speeches made of the kingpin of the Delhi riots case, Sharjeel Imam. These people dare to ask for bail, and they say that delays have been made in the case, whereas ASG Raju also showed the Supreme Court these delays are being made by these people. But even as the people continue to, these certain lobby continues to side with them, this tukre people who wanted to break India made certain speeches. We showed you what those speeches were. They not only spoke about the CAA, they used each and every issue to try and put very dangerous ideas in the mind of certain communities. They wanted a chakka jam. They said in Delhi the flyover should be looked at. They said in Delhi there should be a complete stoppage of water and electricity. They spoke about the triple talaq verdict of the Supreme Court, the Ayodhya verdict of the Supreme Court, and said that the Supreme Court को नानी याद दिला देंगे, government नहीं, Supreme Court को भी दिखा देंगे हम क्या कर सकते हैं. And today, very importantly, ASG Raju has also spoken about the parallel with the Red Fort blast case and said that Sharjeel Imam was an engineer. Doctors are today, some doctors are not doing their job. He also spoke about the Lal Killa case, and he said that today we are seeing intellectuals are terrorists and they are more dangerous than the jihadi on the ground.